Hi, welcome back to our Expo 2. Today they're gonna talk again about Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson says clean your room, and Andrew Tate says go get a six pack if you are depressed, and then re-evaluate your thoughts again. So let's
Focus on
watch.
if you want to improve your life. One of them was physical fitness.
Mhm.
And one thing Andrew Tate always says is if you're upset, you got to get a six pack and then reevaluate your own happiness. Do you think that that's like a reasonable thing to say? Do you agree with that?
I think Andrew's saying something that is incredibly catchy and easy to remember, but it also generates a lot of hostility, right? Like, how dare he reduce everything to a six pack? But if you think about what he's saying in that moment, he's like, go out and achieve something that is universally respected. Right? Universally respected on a number of levels. Why? Because to get a six pack, you got to eat right. To get a six pack, you got to work out. To get a six pack, you got to be motivated and disciplined in order to do something that most people don't want to do. And at the end, you have something that is aesthetically pleasing that every woman on the planet likes. Now, once you've done all of that, chances are you're going to be in a better, are you going to be happier than when you were when you started that endeavor? Yeah, probably. So there's actually a lot of, I think there's actually a lot of common sense that goes into that statement once you break it down into everything that's entailed. Do I think in and of itself, like that's some sort
In
of
a vacuum, that's
Yeah.
like,
No,
I think that would probably cure a lot though. I kind of actually agree with that, but I agree it is a bit of like a catchy phrase that I would say is not going to yield the best results.
Well, let me put it this way. People gave Jordan Peterson crap when he said clean your room. Right. But then you've also got the former commander of SOCOM, Special Operations Command, essentially saying the same thing in his book, Clean Your Room. And what we're talking about is what is something that is an objectively good thing to do that requires some degree of discipline and habit forming behavior that you can look on and say, I set out to do something, I did it, it's done, or now I have to maintain it. All of those things I think yield positive results. So even though it may seem simple, let's face it, if we're getting into a large philosophical discussion on all the various reasons and impacts on why you need to, or we can just say, here's a simple task, or maybe a difficult task, right? Especially, dude, I'm 45. I'm working on the six pack. That's a freaking difficult task. But I've been working on it and I'm certainly happier for the endeavor. So I think sometimes it's about simplifying something down into terms that are accessible to people and it seems attainable, right? It may suck to have to do it, but it's attainable. And giving people attainable goals is, I think, incredibly important.
So, we mentioned Andrew Tate, and some may argue he's a false idol. I think it kind of depends on what you're taking away from what he's saying. If it affects you positively, then I guess he probably wouldn't be a false idol. But if it affects you negatively, then he is a false idol. Who would you say are people that the young kids should idolize that exist today?
Christ.
Christ.
Jesus is hard to beat, right?
Okay.
Perfection's hard to beat. But I mean that sincerely. I think that too many people have a very, very blasé Sunday school version of Jesus that doesn't even begin to explain the absolute complexity there. That is pretty incredible, actually, when you look at the actual courage involved. As far as like contemporary people that I know that I think are good role models, John Lovell. John Lovell runs a Warrior Poets Society. He was in Ranger Regiment. I can't remember what Ranger Battalion, but he did some tours over in Afghanistan and has done some really interesting work since then. But he talks a lot about what genuine masculinity looks like. He's a big believer that we sometimes when we overcorrect on trying to make men, we focus on the warrior without focusing on the poet. And so I think he's done a very good job of achieving that proper balance on what does it mean to be, as a man, you should be strong and you should be capable and you should be terrifying to threats and you should be tender toward your family and the people that you love. And you should be romantic and you should be, a poet. And what does it mean to do that? And how can you accomplish that? So I think John Lovell is a very good example of something like that. There's other people that I really admire. Victor Marx. Victor Marx runs an organization called All Things Possible and he fights against human trafficking. And why does he do that? Because he was horribly abused through most of his young life. Went off to the Marine Corps, dealt with a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. But now he gets out and he helps remove children from really, really bad situations. But on top of that, he talks a lot about his faith. He talks a lot about his journey. He talks a lot about overcoming challenging situations. And so these are guys that I think that people can respect for the fact that they are masculine in the sense that we typically think that's a guy that can handle himself in a fight, right? But I think their view with respect to relationships, with respect to how a man should treat a woman, I think is vastly superior to what we get in some of the red pill environment.
I hope you guys have fun listening to the shows, and I hope you subscribe, like, and comment. Have a good day. Bye bye.